Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast NBA playoff edition. Today, we are going to be reviewing the Eastern and Western Conference Finals and previewing the NBA Finals. Yes, you heard it here first. We are actually at the NBA Finals. It feels like it came a lot quicker than usual, but we're here. It's starting tomorrow, so we on it, Mr. Evan Debo. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, Martin. How are you, man?
I'm excited, man. The finals are tomorrow.
It's we didn't know if we were going to have a season back to start. We had the weird bubble. This is our first operation to have the platform to have the NBA Finals back as close to we can have it as we can have it. I'm equally excited, man. I don't know that I would have picked either of these teams from the get-go in the finals, but nonetheless, we start tomorrow night with Milwaukee Bucks on the road at the Phoenix Suns. I'm excited.
Yes, the Phoenix Suns and the Bucks. But before we give a little preview of that, let's talk about how we got here. Let's start off with the Phoenix Suns, as I like to call them, the L7C Suns, because, again, I say it every time. During our preview episode of the season, me and you both said this team
called it.
They could go far, and we said Western Conference Finals, and they said we're going to do you one better. We're going to go to the finals, and they played.
Called it.
We did call it. We did call it, my brother. And they played the Los Angeles Clippers, and they won 3-6. And we both actually this one. So before we talk more, like, I do want to shout out the Clippers for being very, I don't know, tough, gritty, those basic words, but being very resilient. I mean, they didn't have Kawhi. They were able to take this game to 6. They were down 2-0 in all their series and still fought back. So I do want to give props to my most hated team of the past couple of years, the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah, props to the Clippers. This was not on Paul George as much as we wanted to root against him and everything else. Paul George had himself a heck of a series.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Reggie Jackson played himself back in the NBA. He was an afterthought, and just absolutely, just really, really made the most of the extra shots, with Kawhi out and everything else. And, the Clippers are going to struggle to retain him, financially. He's a free agent, and I think he's earned himself more than what the Clippers are going to be able to play him. But, the Suns just were masterful. Obviously, they didn't have Chris Paul for a couple games in this series, and DeAndre Ayton, man. I mean, this guy's had a coming out party like no other. Between him and D-Book doing D-Book things, again, campaign, I can't say it enough. I mean, another guy who's played himself back into the NBA, just outstanding, and just, again, coming full circle for what James Jones was able to do, again, to pull the trigger, to bring in Chris Paul, bring in, Jay Crowder, who's now in a second finals with the Heat last year. He's been a huge part of how Phoenix has been able to defend and switch, and then hit some timely threes. It's always sunny in Phoenix, man. I mean, it's exciting for this franchise that hasn't been to this platform in the finals in a long time. I talked about in the last podcast. Switching gears to the Clippers real quick. One last note on them. We still never got an answer on Kawhi other than it's Kawhi's knee. What do you make of that? I mean, if you rewind the clock back to San Antonio days, we had grouchy Kawhi and Uncle Dennis, upset about, how his injury was, and, maybe the Spurs were trying to rush him along too much and everything else. I get a lot of those same vibes here where it's just like, well, Kawhi's going to do what Kawhi's going to do, and obviously he knows his body best and all those things. But I mean, like, to not even get a final answer on, hey, it was his ACL, hey, it was his MCL, hey, it was XY. It's just, it's sketchy, it's fishy. I mean, Kawhi is a bad dude on the court, but like this is the same kind of stuff that you just left scratching your head with. I was like, man, with the Toronto chip, like he made the most of it, and balled out against the Warriors before Durant went down in the finals and winning the championship, and we've almost regressed a little bit. Like this is just a giant question mark for me, Martin. What do you make of it?
I'm really glad you brought up the San Antonio thing because that's exactly what I was thinking about during Kawhi's thing. Because remember, Lord and behold, that when that injury happened with San Antonio and like Tony Parker or whoever were trying to rush him back, he was like, "I want out." And now we're coming back full circle where this happened, and he can be out again, like you've eloquently stated about like the money and all that. But the only difference I feel like is that there was no players on the Clippers team like questioning his injury to the public because of the San Antonio thing. But no, dude, I 100% agree. It is literally the same thing that happened. What was it about? Man, it's already been like 4-something years ago. It's already been that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's the same thing, man. And I think it's going to be the same result that he's gone from the team that this injury happened from. And unfortunately, I think the Clippers need to do whatever. I think they need to try and keep him because if Kawhi played against the Suns, I do think the Clippers might have actually won that series.
They might well have. At this juncture, it's tough to tell and just speculative. But I mean, you're right. I mean, the Clippers got to do what you got to do when you got a franchise-altering player who can opt out and become a free agent this summer, Martin.
Yep.
You got to walk on eggshells, and you're kind of held hostage here. I mean, you got to just ride it out. I mean, Paul George did everything he could do. Was again really, really impressed. But I'm not ruling out that Kawhi doesn't opt out of his deal in the next month and a half ish, whenever that deadline is coming up around the draft. I'm not ruling out that he will opt out. I mean, he can always sign for another deal or sign for another 1-and-1 with the option, to try to get more money with the cap increases, annually, those kinds of things. Like, it's a possibility, but keep an eye on that situation. I will go that far as to say keep an eye on Kawhi Leonard's situation. We already saw the Lakers fire their trainer, essentially blaming the Anthony Davis and LeBron woes on that poor lady who is their athletic trainer, which is ridiculous. But I mean, you never know. And I mean, it's the same narrative we've seen with Kawhi over the last 4 years. We don't know where Kawhi's head's at. He shows no emotion. He's just there to hoop. We don't know what his motives are. We don't know much about him. We just know that he's absolutely freaking good at defense and is a bucket getter and just again a transcendental star in this league. But nonetheless, the Suns advanced to the finals. Martin, let's shift to the East for a recap.
I do. I know basketball. One of the biggest words that are always tossed around is legacy, and like, what's your legacy in the game and things of that nature. I think Game 6 has truly cemented Chris Paul's, well, even without a title, that Game 6 has cemented him as one of the best point guards ever, especially of this generation, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, we struggled with calling him the point god when a guy's never made the finals. And granted, we still might, by the end, but, there's a lot riding on Chris's legacy, to use that word, as you well put it. When it comes to how will we look at him compared to John Stockton? How will we look at him compared to, some of the other great point guards, Oscar Robertson, how when we start stacking up Bob Cousy, all those guys, when you start looking to see who the point guard is when it's all said and done, Chris Paul, when you bring him into a team, he's been on quite a few teams, since the New Orleans days when he first came into the league. He is a franchise changer. I mean, he really is. The team's records increase, their winning percentage increases. Just absolutely absolutely worthy of being in the conversation at least. And I'm really interested to see how the finals go. As he continues to try to make a statement about his legacy.
Agreed. I just think watching that, seeing what he was doing, it really did look like he wanted it more. And I know that's a cliche that's heard all the time, but it really did look like he wanted it more than anyone else on that court.
He absolutely did. He, you could see the fire in his eyes. He didn't want it to go to an additional game. You can see, hey, this is within our reach. We're going to go after it. And that dude was a dog. I mean, he really was. He just wanted it. He's one of those guys that frustrates a lot of people, Martin, as we know. When it comes to getting in with the ticky tacky borderline, foul calls, and I mean he's like what PJ Tucker does, defensively, he does offensively, he does defensively. He'll kind of loop your arm and throw up a shot. He's brought the mid-range game back. I mean, the Suns have really built a resume here, built on the mid-range game between him and Booker. And they're just so lethal there. And, just Chris Paul doing the little prodding, inside the arc around the foul line, and then they'll just pull up and do a hierarching rainbow that goes in like money every time. I mean, how many times have we seen that over and over and over? I mean, just so impressive. He wanted it. He's got it. He will be in the NBA Finals tomorrow night.
Never thought I'd say those words, Chris Paul in the NBA Finals. Wild. And with a young, and Kendrick Perkins did bring up the point too about how Chris Paul, he did not go to a super team to get to this point. Like the Phoenix Suns, they had a bad record. I mean, they were 8-0 in the bubble and whatnot, but they were not like a top team before Chris Paul got there. And he really like pulled all these young bucks up. Here we are in the NBA Finals. It is one of sort of the best jobs I've seen personally. From like a
yeah, I mean, it was a gamble. I mean, look what they expended to get him. Not a lot. I mean, nobody wanted that contract. Who wanted to pay Chris Paul $40 million a year? Yep. And what a gamble, man. Oh my goodness. And that's why James Jones is the executive of the year. That's why the Phoenix Suns are in the NBA Finals. Is there's a lot of teams out there, and we've tried to tease this a little bit, back and forth about, hey, how many guys, can be swapped a place or two, what have you, to kind of be that final piece on an up and coming team.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, if you can swap CJ McCollum for a Jaylen Brown or those types of moves kind of thing, or, pull the trigger and, bring in a Kevin Love or a couple other pieces on an up and coming team. How far can you move the needle? It's just impressive to James Jones, impressive to see the Phoenix Suns in the finals. And man, I'm excited to see what Chris Paul is capable of here in the final round.
Agreed on that. They aren't going to be playing a cupcake though. They are not going to be playing a cupcake if we switch it.
As much as the media wants to call them a cupcake, Martin, I'm really hot about this.
About
a lot of secrets on the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those good old Milwaukee Bucks. They're representing the East, and they beat 6 games. Well, I did like that both series went 6 games, just from a selfish standpoint that it was more games to watch. So I know that when we previewed this, we didn't even think of it potentially even going past 5. But Atlanta, man, I know we've been talking about the losers of these first, but Atlanta's future is bright. And just today, they actually signed Nate McMillan to a 4-year deal as a coach. So
much deserved.
Like, Evan, this team, man, if they can stay together and keep pulling some pieces, they are going to be a force in the East. I know, obviously, the Nets were hindered with injuries, and Philadelphia had their woes with the shooting, but this Atlanta team can play, man.
They can. They certainly brought it up a notch this year. I think I again just shout out Nate McMillan and what he was able to do with that roster defensively. There's a lot of good things to look at if you're the Hawks. The Bogdanovich signing was huge. He was worth the big money to steal him away. Interesting enough, you remember he was originally part of a deal that would have sent him to Milwaukee.
Yeah,
but that got nixed earlier on because of tampering, essentially. And Milwaukee got slapped on the wrist for that, and the trade didn't go through. But he was a restricted free agent with the Kings, and there was tampering before the signing period essentially came open. And the Hawks swooped in and took advantage. Cam Reddish, man, dude just balled out. I mean, I thought, again, the Bucks were up in that game 6, by 22, and then it was down to 9 like that, and that was because of Cam Reddish, and so many others just going out there. Danilo Gallinari, just continuing to pour it on. Trey gave what he could. Shout out to him with that injury. He tried to play through it, just obviously wasn't himself. The future in Atlanta is really bright. I do want to put a caveat on there, not to hinder what they accomplish, because you can only play who's in front of you. I'm
Correct.
a firm believer of reiterating that. We all know it's the obvious, but I mean, if Atlanta were to play Brooklyn, they ain't getting through.
Oh, no.
So, but I don't even think, with Kevin Durant and those guys, Atlanta's not getting through. Minus Irving and minus Harden. It took everything Milwaukee had at full strength to just beat Kevin Durant and essentially the B team out there. So with that being said, you're looking at Atlanta. You start having conversations with, okay, you're Atlanta at number 3 right now, and kind of the East. If you're looking at who's in your East power rankings looking into to next year too, then you got to look at some of the other teams that maybe it's just a matchup thing or what have you. I mean, who knows what Boston's going to do? I don't want to say Atlanta's better than Boston at this point, and that sounds harsh against what Atlanta just did. Because I mean, they exposed the Sixers for what they were. They beat up on a bad Knicks team to get here. Again, you can only play who's in front of you. And then, in a series, if I put them against the Heat right now, who are you picking, Martin?
The current,
Are you taking the Hawks?
I'd actually take Miami, and I know that
I think I take my. I don't bring this up. I don't bring this up to belittle what Atlanta did, but I think they're like a Chris Paul move away from holy crap. They're you bring in a caliber guy like that. If they swung some deals and brought in like a CJ McCollum or something to flank, who's going to be strong defensively too, to flank a Trey Young, in addition to all those different wings. Gallinari turns 33 this summer. He's on a big deal. I mean, it was worth the gamble. And Nate McMillan, again, just a fantastic job, to get him to this point. It was impressive. There was never a game where you thought they were out of it. Because they were able to roar back, minus 1 or 2 here. But again, even that final game, they came storming back down 22, and I mean, it was still up in the air for sure. And with the bench issues that Milwaukee's had for the most part, although they had some guys show up in that game 6, Pat Connaughton, Jeff Teague coming in, getting some jabs against his former team. He came in and had I think 11 or 13, hit 3 threes in the first half. It took that to keep Atlanta at bay when it was all said and done. But again, impressive. They beat who they needed to beat till they got to this point. And they, again, who knows if you had a fully healthy Trey, if that would have changed much. Again, that also says what the difference was, that Milwaukee didn't have Giannis the last 2 games and 2 quarters essentially. But Milwaukee advances nonetheless.
Well, Evan, I do have a question for you, because you said that they're one small move away, which I agree. And I don't have Atlanta's salary cap right in front of me, but in a perfect world, since we talked about him earlier, what if you insert Kawhi on the Hawks?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a scary thing. If you had a Kawhi-like player on the Hawks, heck yeah. They don't have the money to sign him. It'd have to be a trade, and they'd have to throw a jillion picks to the Clippers, basically. Atlanta spent a lot of money this past summer, again, on Gallinari and Bogdanovich. A lot of these guys, they're handcuffed financially for sure. They don't have room to look into the max player. But again, I mean, Chris Paul wasn't a straight signing. He was a trade through to Oklahoma City. So there could be some things. There's been some questions about, could Toronto look to blow it up? And, is somebody like a Pascal Siakam available? Is a Fred VanVleet available? Who knows? Kyle Lowry's a free agent. Is he going to sign somewhere? I mean, there's tons of things hanging in the balance where, a team like the Hawks could really capitalize and do a couple upgrades. I mean, they also have to look at, John Henson's, or not John Henson, sorry, big difference. John Collins. Shout out John Henson, former Milwaukee Buck and Cleveland Cavalier. Great veteran, big man. I think poor guy, I think is out of the NBA, unfortunately, but just in the last year. But John Collins is going to be a free agent, restricted free agent. Who's going to throw a lot of money at him? Are they willing to match it? That could open up a hole if they decide to move on from him. Obviously, he was huge in this series. They needed bucket getters at times. When Trey went down and, just close. And how many times we've seen him on the block just do that little turnaround and just absolutely money the entire time. So that's a big question mark for Atlanta heading into the offseason right now. Again, I think there's just a lot that I love that I saw out of Trey Young. A lot of people were obviously hammering them for, not coming out with Luka and doing the trade and everything else and, just slamming the Hawks. But I mean, man, did they prove people wrong again, just by, having the season they had, having the run they had. But nonetheless, Milwaukee was just defensively with the superior team. All right. Chris Middleton, just absolutely. I've just been so impressed with Chris Middleton. Again, he's not in the Kawhi Leonard, LeBron, Luka conversation. He's not in the Giannis conversation, but he's kind of knocking at the door with this kind of run right now, man. I'm looking at this upcoming series for them against the Suns in the finals, and I'm like, he's going to be a really tough guy to defend. I mean, and that's going to put the Suns in a lot of tough spots, defensively, trying to stop him and Holiday. And then who knows with Giannis right now, I mean, those are three really tough dudes to stop in ISO possessions. And again, just how they get to the lane and everything else.
I do want to say something about the Bucks as well, because I know we talked about it with the Warriors before they signed Kevin Durant. How this Bucks team was organic, man. I mean, they weren't, besides if you want to call Drew Holiday their biggest signing ever, but they got Giannis in the draft. I mean, they got Chris Middleton. Like, this was like a homegrown team, and we don't see that often making it to the championship anymore. It's typically the super team. So I do want to give them a shout out for that as well.
Saw a stat today. Devin Booker and Giannis Antetokounmpo, first set of all-stars to face each other in the finals that are homegrown like that. So they're still playing. The original team never left since the Paul Pierce, Kobe Bryant finals.
That's wild.
That's over a decade. I mean, that just shows you how player empowerment, player movement is, everything else. Milwaukee needed to dig deep and have some things bounce their way. Bud, who almost was fired during the Nets series. I mean, if they would have been bounced in that game 7, they would have fired him 100%, 3,000%. So you go from the toe on, and that just tells you, I mean, basketball is a game of inches. I mean, look at the Kawhi game 7 from a couple of years ago when he was at the Raptors, that bounce that went in. And you have Kevin Durant on his foot on the line to win the game. That Milwaukee could have been eliminated from this whole thing, but the basketball gods do intervene here and there. Just, I mean, they had to have some things go right. Bud played the crap out of Bobby Portis, and everybody's chanting Bobby, Bobby, Bobby. Dude just was absolutely everything they needed, especially when Giannis went down too. I mean, he was tough to handle in the post. He was efficient. He was great defensively. They had some, whether it's Pat Connaughton, Bryn Forbes had a little bit better showing. Definitely not that Miami round that he had where he just was slinging threes like Ray Allen, but and basically was non-existent in the net series. But I mean, they had some key dudes step up. Brook Lopez, that throwback 33-point game, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's gonna be a force in the next round. I'm really interested to see how the Ayton Lopez matchup goes. I mean, it's gonna be a sight to see. I think Milwaukee's found something with, hey, all these teams are going small. The Hawks only had Capella. I mean, they had nobody else, so that's why Portis and Giannis, when he was healthy, and Lopez just absolutely feasted in the paint. And Drew Holiday was aggressive too, attacking the bucket as well. So, Martin, let's transition to our preview here. So we've kind of touched a little bit on this NBA Finals in terms of legacies. You've got Chris Paul in year 16, coming in looking for that first chip to put by his name. You've got two-time MVP and Giannis still hanging in the balance with that hyperextended knee. How much is he going to be able to play? At what percentage is he able to play? If he plays, a lot of things hanging in the balance. I think it's going to be a really good finals. Thoughts, predictions?
Man, I think too this is really tough for me because when you were just talking about Giannis's stuff, and I saw this tweet, which is actually true. Giannis is one championship and if he plays one finals MVP for being a transcendent player resume wise. If this man could get a championship, and need not remind everyone, this dude's only 26. So if he can rack that title, man, you can honestly stack his resume right now with a lot of the great ones, especially if he gets a title. But on the flip side, Chris Paul, well, obviously he's never won any MVPs or stuff like that. But if you just look at his resume as well, and you throw a championship there, as we talked about, you're talking about putting him in the top 5 point guards of all time. And man, and then there's the Devin Booker going against Chris Middleton, and then you got Ayton, Brook Lopez. I really, right now, I think the X factor is Drew Holiday. I really do. If Drew plays really well, I think Milwaukee can win.
I think Drew will play well. I'm counting on Drew to play well with my prediction here. It's tough, man. I don't want to take the cop out, but as of the day before the finals, not knowing the status of Giannis, here's what this finals boils down to me. It's going to be at least 6 games. Nobody's taking this in 5. Nobody's taking this in 4. This finals to me boils down to one common thing. Are we going to have the 2-time MVP play in this series, Martin? And is he going to play 4 games? If he plays in 4 games, the Milwaukee Bucks will win the NBA Finals. If he does not play in 4 games, the Phoenix Suns will win the NBA Finals. I don't want to put an asterisk on this. I have to operate that he is operating the assumption of, hey, he hasn't been given the okay to play in a ball game yet. So my prediction today is the Phoenix Suns win. If by tomorrow Giannis is ready to go and he can compete and there's something to be said about, are you a distraction versus a hindrance, on the court versus, if you're not at 80, 90, 100% athletic ability or what you normally are able to do. I just don't see that as good as Phoenix is. I just don't see Phoenix being able to stop those 3 guys. And then you add in Brook Lopez. and you've really just got DeAndre Ayton and Jalen Smith like way down the bench, and Dario Saric trying to defend the paint. Like I think the real like what the Lakers should have been able to do with some of their size, Milwaukee absolutely is going to punch them in the mouth in the paint. Maybe that's a little bit of my rooting interest coming through, because I mean I think I do err more on wanting to see my Central Division foes across the Great Lakes here from the Cavs and Milwaukee, pull it out and have Giannis again start to really kind of put his resume stamp on at 26 years of age. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I know it's a cop out to say, well, if Giannis plays, it's the Bucks. If he doesn't play, it's the Suns. But that's where I'm at today.
No, I think you're 100% right, because we don't know, and we're recording right now Monday. I know the Suns' media availability did start today, and we haven't heard anything from the Bucks camp if Giannis is going to play. I honestly do feel like they're going to announce that right before the game if he's going to play or not, because luckily there was no damage in his ligaments. I know we didn't say that earlier, but it looked pretty scary, and he was like, I know we saw the funny tweets about it, but he was walking on his own power, and he wanted to get back in the game. And, right now, and I mean, we could revisit this, obviously, when we get to the halfway point of the finals, like we do halfway final pod. But as of right now, I am taking the Phoenix Suns in 7 games, because I'm going on the impression that Giannis is not playing in the first couple of games, and I feel like they'll dig themselves in a hole. I think Giannis will be back by potentially game 3, but I think the Suns will win in 7 games right now. It could change if I get a tweet saying that Giannis is playing in game 1. I've rode with them all year. Might as well try now again.
I'm gonna deviate from the script. I'm gonna say this goes 7. Which would be a great final. I mean, I think every fan hopes for a 7-game series, but I just was skimming a couple of my online Reddit threads. Shout out Reddit NKE Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks Reddit thread, and some folks on Twitter. Now, granted, like these aren't like big reporters doing this, and probably a little bit of homerism, but seeing a lot of is on track to play in game 1 for Giannis. Seeing he's made significant progress. Has been working out in Phoenix, fighting tooth and nail to be able to be ready to play in game 1. Again, I think it's 50-50. I think it's I don't know, 60-40 in Milwaukee's favor if he plays in this series, again, 3-4 games. And it definitely is the opposite direction if he doesn't play, or worse for Milwaukee. But I'm gonna say, as of today, Milwaukee Bucks find a way to pull it out. The upgrades of PJ Tucker, of Bryn Forbes, of figuring out Bobby Portis in the rotation. The emergence of Chris Middleton is somewhat of a 1B alpha superstar, as opposed to kind of a level 2 tier. I mean, just the way he stepped up, and again, just some of their scoring depth, man. I gut feeling today. I'm optimistic Giannis plays, and I'll be darned if he doesn't end up playing. I'll eat crow, and it is what it is. But I recognize Phoenix is no adversary that's insignificant by any means. Again, I think that if Giannis doesn't play at least 3 games or 4 games in the series, Phoenix is going to win. But I'm going to assume he is, and I'm going to put my name against the Milwaukee Bucks. Put my name with the Milwaukee Bucks as your NBA Finals champ.
And you have Bucks in 7, or do you have them lower? Did you say you had them in 7, the Bucks?
Bucks in 7, although I want to say Bucks in 6, like the famous clip there. But no, I got to say Bucks in 7. Just that's my asterisk that I will put on, of sorts, with with the unknowns with the injury and everything else. But yeah, Brandon Jennings famously said Bucks and 6. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to confidently say might as well just say go full Brandon Jennings. Bucks and 6.
Bucks and 6. Okay. So Evan has the Bucks and 6. I have the Suns and 7 in the NBA Finals starting Tuesday, July 6th. Evan, do we have a tip-off time?
30? I'm not entirely sure, to tell you the truth.
8:30 seems about right.
Or it probably 9, honestly, for the West Coast.
Yeah, so Tuesday. Yeah, that'd be not terrible, but it's exciting, man. We're gonna see a new champ, someone who hasn't been champion for a long time.
6 p.m. West Coast.
Okay. I mean, this is
Martin, real quick. Since our last pod, we haven't done one since the lottery, right? I got to sneak it in the lottery piece.
No, we were actually the last one we recorded the day of the lottery.
Right before. All right. So top 3 picks. You have the Detroit Pistons, you have the Houston Rockets, and you have the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That was wild. Why?
1, 3. Who are you taking right now?
Well. Number one's gonna be Cade. He's already gonna be. He said he's not even working out with anyone else, so that's that's already done. But I don't know, man, because I know you're not particular. I forget because there's 2 Jalen's, but I know you're not particularly fond of one of them. Or one. No, you're
really fond of Suggs that high, and especially for any of these 3 teams. I think. Although I could be talking to Jalen Suggs with Houston, but they're not going to take Jalen Suggs. It's really Houston. Houston's going to take Mobley, or Houston's going to take Mobley in thinking that he can coexist with Christian Wood, or they're going to take Jalen Green, which I feel like they're going to do is going to take Jalen Green. And then the Cavs are going to take whichever one they don't. All three are clear cut and above top players in this draft. I mean, there's a lot of guys down the list that could be late lottery, and you're like, ooh man, like they. Or there's a couple like project folks, Kuminga is one that will be there between 5 to 8. That's a really interesting kind of just raw prospect. He's got all the measurables.
Scotty Barnes.
Scotty Barnes has been shooting up people's boards. I would be surprised if he goes 4. I hope the Cavs don't. I mean, again, that's almost like an Anthony Bennett type swing for me to scare me and not pick Mobley or Green. But he's been shooting up. James Bouknight has had a phenomenal combine. I mean, everybody's just talking about what kind of person he is. He's got that alpha mentality as a guard. Like James Bouknight could be a Tyler Hero type guy you're looking at. That's a little bit more on the creator side of things too, that could shoot up the list. But who do you pick if you're Houston? You've got John Wall. You've got Christian Wood. Christian Wood, you threw a lot of money on to get him away from Detroit. Again, younger guy, got all the measurables. Can you one out of center, can step out and hit jumpers, is active on the boards. I mean, just phenomenal young asset to have. Obviously, they are the second chance for one Kevin Porter Jr., who I just was devastated. I have a Kevin Porter Jr. Cavs jersey that I need to burn because that's never going to happen. But from when he was with the Cavs, he had a 50-point game this past year. Obviously, we saw Jayshawn Tate, former Buckeye, really emerge as kind of that Draymond, undersized, 6'5", 6'6", small ball center, that can you just really, really pass the ball well, everything else. You've got pieces on the roster, Martin. of sorts to like not be totally terrible heading into next year, but you also don't have a lot of incentive to try to win a lot of games with some draft capital you've recouped with the James Harden deal and getting rid of Westbrook and stuff too. A couple extra picks like you've recouped and trading Robert Covington to the Trailblazers. You got 2 firsts from there. Like there's really no incentive to be good anytime soon, but like that's the status for the Houston Rockets. So I mean, with that being said, where are you going?
How much do you think John Wall has left in the tank?
I think he's going to be a serviceable, at worst, John Wall. And I can't say stays healthy. We know he won't. John Wall can go out and get you 16 and 8. He can be a starting point guard, cut his minutes back a lot, be a young rebuilding team, but he's a steady hand to help make things easier for the younger guys.
I think then if with that answer, I think with Houston, I know it's probably going to be a little shakeup, but I think they should go Evan Mobley.
You think Mobley?
I do. I'm also thinking about, I mean, they're not going to be any good, but I just think about those people out in the West with Jokic, obviously Anthony Davis, those bigs out there. You need a big to compete out there in the West, man. Like you do now. I got
They've got He's playing so well, averaging over 20 a game, I think, before he got injured for the rest of the year. I mean, for me, on the outside looking in, I have a hard time with them, and it's just me being negative because I want Jalen Green on the Cavs, even though we're guard heavy and we're small guard heavy. And I just want him to out. I want none of this. Let's trade Colin Sexton before we make a pick crap that's going on Twitter. None of this. I want Jalen Green, but I feel like that's the easier pick for. Sorry, I apologize, listeners. My Apple Watch to let me know its thoughts on Mobley versus Green, but I feel like they're going to go Green there. But I will tell you, our buddy Jeremy Young's been dogging me about how down I am about Mobley. Just again, dude's undersized. Like, I think he weighs like under 20 pounds more than 6'3" Darius Garland for the Cavs, or point guard. Like, and he's 7'1". Like, that's a problem. Like, he's going to grow into body, sure, but I will say to the Jeremys out there, and I hope Jeremy listens to this, I am warming up to Mobley at the idea of him not being a Christian Wood type player, a guy who can hit threes, is super mobile, great footwork, glass eater, great touch around the rim, all those things. But I'm warming up to Mobley Martin as could he be somebody who's been maybe not even looked at in that realm, but could he be a Giannis type? Could he be and again, nobody's going to be Giannis, but could he be that guy who handles the ball a little bit more, who, again, just with, you watch the film on him, his stride, his footwork, his touch, that a guy that just, you give him the ball 18 feet out, he takes a step and he's at the basket kind of guy. You know what I mean? As opposed to just planting them in the paint or planting them at the 3-point line. I mean, that's a high pick to go on a raw prospect like Mobley, but that's what's so fascinating about him too. Is he has such a good touch right now. He has the length and the again, just the ability to get to the rim, with his size. I mean, he's a freakish athlete. I still kind of, you asked me today, I feel like Green is my answer for the Cavs, but assuming that he would be available, but I don't think he's going to be available. But are there any other players, Martin, you could see if you're going Mobley with the Rockets? Would you then go Green with the Cavs or anybody else?
I would go Green. And then to answer your question about the Giannis thing, I mean, it really all depends on him, like worth ethic wise, and obviously the staff over there in Cleveland, if he does land in Cleveland. Because I mean, 7 foot, 215. I mean, Is it in the realm of possibility? Yes, but I don't know. Like, I've never seen like reports of Evan Mobley's worth ethic and all of that, but I think it's in the realm of possibility if he really works hard.
I think that too. That's a big question mark. On a lot of things. Again, as we just don't know. We don't know how the players are. We don't know what their work ethic is and everything else. We don't know how they are as competitors. We don't know if you're getting a Colin Sexton gym rat who's just relentless in terms of trying to get better, or you've got a Ben Simmons, am talented, I really don't care. Like you just don't know. Like, and we especially don't know because we're not interviewing the kids and everything else. We're just going off of what we've seen in terms of gameplay. But no, I'm excited. In summation here, that the Cavs moved up in the lottery. There's a late game that Kevin Love had a 30-point game against the Wizards. I think that we ended up it was the Wizards or Charlotte where we ended up getting to a spot where we had a coin flip and we lost the coin flip. Had we won the coin flip, we'd be picking I think 6 or 7 with Oklahoma City because they had won the coin flip before the lottery balls were delegated out. But like, man, like it's good that I guess we could have that feel good win at the end of the season and goes to show you that tanking's not everything. But I'm ecstatic that we're at least in this position to get a really, really good young prospect to add to the fold. I'm excited that, in August, we're going to get Summer League again, those kinds of things. And the draft will be at the end of this month. But we got a lot of basketball to get through in the next 4 to 7 games, with the finals. And as we started off with, man, I'm excited to see the Giannis versus CP3 matchup here.
Agreed, man. It's going to be a good finals. It's going to be a fantastic finals. Like, for all the people who got tired, because you did bring up the stat how homegrown talent, like going at it since the Lakers and the Celtics with Pierce and Kobe. And that was also the year right before, that was the year of the decision because the next year was Miami Heat and Dallas Mavericks. If I remember, because that was after Kobe's 5th. And then we had the stretch of LeBron with the Heat and Cavs and Lakers and going to the finals and whatnot. So for anyone who does not like LeBron, you don't have to worry about him in the finals. If you don't like the Warriors, you don't have to worry about them in the finals or Kevin Durant. This is completely new blood. So if you've been wanting a new reason to watch the NBA, like we've said at the beginning with these playoffs, you saw Devin Booker, saw how good he is, you saw how good Trae Young is because they're not on national TV. Now you have Devin Booker at the grandest stage. You have no reason not to watch these NBA finals.
No reason, Martin.
Like, none at all. But and then I guess what you're to answer your question about potential players that weren't said, because I know I said Scotty, but Davion Mitchell is one.
Yes.
That I have my eye on, who I think I'm looking at a mock that potentially he could fall to the Warriors, which that'd be something.
That's where I've heard as well. That could be one of those. Hey, if you fall to us, we're taking you. Promises before the draft.
Yeah, so that'd be the one. But man, Evan, anything else, man? Because we did just talk a lot of hoops. Because I know we'll go for tomorrow.
I think if there's anything else, no. Not unless I'm missing anything glaring at this stage, but I think we got it covered. We
didn't talk about the shove. We didn't talk about Pat Beverly's shove, just a little tad on that. That was a little excessive. I know.
Bush League. And I love he's a dog, man, but like there's a line when you're one of those guys or average NBA fans that aren't, Pat Bev isn't on my team, but like you defend them, you're like, I want that in a defender. I want that in a defender. Everything else. And now it's hard to defend a guy like that. Or just, passing out, just passing out shoves like that. Just inexcusable, dumb.
Yep. No, I agree. Just wanted to make sure we touched on it. No, man, I don't think there's anything else but to get ready for tomorrow night.
Grab the popcorn.
Yep, grab your popcorn, do whatever you need to do after you get off work. If you take a nap, set alarms if you have to, get caffeine if you really need it. But I don't want to miss these finals. I'm telling you guys, we're gonna see a new champion. There's nothing better than seeing a new champ, especially since the star players, well, Devin and Giannis are both extremely young. So, and Ayton. So it's going to be a good time, man. I'm excited.
Dare we say just the beginning too, Martin?
It could be.
With two guys as we are, I mean, maybe we're 10 years later, we're talking about this is the third or fourth Giannis and Booker matchup. Who knows?
It's very possible,
it all
man.
Starts tomorrow night.
That is true. It all starts tomorrow night. And with that being said, everyone, thank you for listening to the L7C podcast. Thank you, Evan, for being on. Again, NBA Finals. We're recording this on Mondays. Tuesday, ABC, 9 p.m. Get the popcorn, as Evan said. And with that being said, take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.